Welcome
Dr.
to
J.
The Third Degree with JD. Glad to have you guys here this evening to have some nice discussions on confliction, being conflicted, and what that means for all the men folk out there in the world. I do believe we have grown by 1,000% with our subscribers. So
Outstanding.
that's good. I think
Awesome.
we're now up to
Awesome.
10. So thank you very much
Wow.
to all
Each
of
and
our
every one of you.
subscribers out
Thank
there.
you.
We dearly love you and all of your likes and your clicks.
I assure you this episode will boost it to 1 million.
So this evening we're going to be talking about being conflicted as a man. Why that has become an issue within the United States today. Really around the world, most likely. And what's the difference between being conflicted and conflict in both relationships, interpersonally, societal, all of that. So yeah, it should be good. As we're looking into these things, look back at Sex and Berries, episode 1. So that was kind of the granular look at men and women. How did we get here? How did we go from quadrupeds screaming our butts off in the jungle to now upright standing quadrupeds screaming our butts off in today's jungle in society? So that's what we're going to be talking about today on The Third Degree with JD, episode 2, Conflicted. So I'm joined once again by the brunette assassin, Miss Christine Martin. And also tonight we've got a retired special operations soldier, Mr. Joe Goodlow, bringing that non-toxic masculinity to the conversation.
True story.
So, if you guys are ready, you guys
Right.
can do intros if you would like. If not, we'll go ahead
Go
and
first.
get started on everything.
Gentlemen first.
The lady must go
We're
first.
in an evolved world.
Get rolling. So,
Brunette assassin, Christine Martin, background in developmental psychology and behavioral psychology, specializing in trauma, stress, as well as several dozen healing modalities that also specialize in trauma and stress and the individual ability to navigate the system in order to handle all of the come on, man, can we do that? Can I bring my notes up
you can
to
bring-
regulate the nervous system and develop coping mechanisms through healing
You
modalities?
can do whatever you want. This is our safe space and our bubble.
I'll get it right
We
by
can
number
do-
10.
Yeah.
I swear.
Wait, yeah, we'll be working on this for millennia. We're humans. That's our MO.
That's my internal
So-
conflict.
That's why we're conflicted.
Mm.
Yes. Well, thank you for joining us tonight. Again, Joe, welcome.
Thank you, my friend.
Look forward to some interesting conversations tonight. So, getting to the heart of it, these conversations came from, just conversations between friends, family. You're seeing things online, you see things in the news. As far as where men are at today, everybody's got their own perspective on what a man is. In Sex and Berries, we talked about masculinity. What does that mean? What does femininity mean? Which we'll discuss in our next episode 3, Minimized. Thank you for joining us with that one as well. But what is masculinity, and what does that mean to all of us folks here? What is toxic masculinity? Another conversation, but we hear a lot of noise today
Mm-hmm.
in the news, all over. Hey, you can't do this because it's bad. You can't do this because it's toxic. You can't be, people are getting blocked online because they're posting, hunting photos, these types of things. So it's no surprise to me, being a man, that there is some confliction going on with today's men, because everything that we were told that we're supposed to be historically over time and space, which really in general hasn't changed. You know, you're the provider, you secure your family, you hunt, you gather, you protect, you procreate. Generally, it hasn't changed a whole lot. Those are the same kind of discussions that have gone on and have been passed around for generations over generations over generations. Now, doing some reading on that, it seems that I think what they call like the golden era dream that guys often talk about. So you'll hear maybe your dad said it or your grandpa said it. I want to get back to the way things used to be. What does that really mean? What are they talking about? And did that actually ever exist in the first place? Because going so far back, you know, reading, you know, they were joking, you know, lightheartedly, that Socrates was complaining about his wife.
Right.
So was there ever a golden time where there was no conflict, there was this symbiotic relationship where men were men and women were women, and it was this kumbaya moment and everybody knew their place and it was just great? I think that's a false assumption that's really been perpetuated for millennia.
I was just going to say, I think that's been perpetuated for millennia. You know, I mean, it's just been a thing that's been passed on and passed on. And, you know, a father talks to his son and he says, you know, back in my day it was like this, and the son takes that, excuse me, and he passes that on to his son, and it just perpetuates that cycle. You know what I mean?
And is that actual truth? Or are we really, as men, perpetuating a fallacy? Thus, the confliction.
Sure.
So, as we look at that, we try to peel that onion back and say, okay, well, what, and it all gets back to that very basic question. Okay, what is a man? What is his purpose in life? What are we supposed to do? And how has that changed from as civilization has changed? You know, it's pretty easy as a caveman. I know what I'm supposed to do. It's very basic. I need to eat. I need to survive. If there happened to be a lady friend with me, fellow cave woman, she was there to produce offspring for me. She was there to potentially assist me in gathering what I needed for subsistence to live. As we grew as a civilization, and that kind of pyramid changed from protection, you know, on up to procreation and through that cycle, and as society advanced, women advanced, men advanced, did we lose our place along the way? At what point
Did we as men lose our place? Is that what you're asking?
yeah, so when did that happen? When did the change occur? So when you're looking at those two things, where today we really, I mean, yes, we have to worry about security, but not like in the days that we used to, where
You're not fighting off aggressors. You're not having to keep the other tribes out of your cave. You're not having to do those things. Those were typically men things to do. Now the women, you know, look at some cultures, you know, the women were way more ruthless than the men. If they were invaded and the men were off doing things, the women were a lot of times way more ruthless in the justice that they would dole out on invaders.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So where did it get lost? You know?
Well, and I think that, you know, that's a really good point, because at that time, though, there was nobody saying to the women, no, you cannot go to war.
Right.
And we have had that policy in place for a very long time here. So, I mean, even if we had wanted, you know, for the past 100 years as women to fight for our country in the same right and respect as men have, we literally haven't had the right. So, you know, going back to what you said about, well, if I was a caveman, my woman would be doing this, you know, it's the idea that the man is always the star of the story. you know, and there's a secondary piece, secondary but equal, which is women realizing that we don't have to be secondary nature. We are not just an accoutrement to the man, and our history doesn't teach us about these cultures. What does our history teach us? Patriarchal standards, because
And
it's
matriarchal
easier.
duties,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Has that caused the problem that we're seeing today, where these patriarchal societies, you know, women used to be there were warriors at some point.
Mhm.
So at what point in history did we say, hey, women, that's no longer your job? It's only for the men to do that. It could be based on religion, it could be based on a number of things. You know, from an American history standpoint. You know,
From
we're
all
looking
history
at that.
standpoint,
Right,
it
and I was
is
gonna
religious.
say,
I mean,
you look at an all history standpoint, you know, and you won't know these things unless you delve deep in the history of these other cultures and you read about them, because it's not taught. It's not taught here in American history. But if you look at true American history and the indigenous peoples of the United States, you know, the Plains Indians, right, are out there doing their thing, and they're warring with other tribes, and they're trying to keep, you know, westward expansion down, and they're doing all this. A lot of times the braves and the warriors were out, you know, doing things, trying to create, like we would say, create white space, right, from their homestead. And as folks would break through, it then became the women's duty to deal with those problems. Or if the braves got overrun, and then, you know, hell hath no fury, bro. You know what I mean? They're going to fight to the death to protect the kids in the homestead. So, but you don't hear about that a whole lot. But if you delve deep into it and you actually read the true history, and this is solely for us here in the United States, you know, you can find those things out, and you can glean those bits of information from the history books and the true tales of what actually happened.
and I think it's important also to point out that when we say patriarchal standard, we're not talking about like an overarching, you know, male standard. We're not just talking about men taking over and saying how things are going. We're talking about a unified patriarch God. So we're talking about the Christian standard of there is one God, and even in his divisiveness, he is still all men. So nowhere in Christianity, which is the centralized focus of everything that we've been taught from Eastern Europe, like forward to here, is under a unified man God. And the representation of the woman in the Bible is minimal at best. And even when it is representative, it's a subjective nature to the man.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're taught constantly from birth that men have a place and women have a place. And I think that it's really important when we look at that, because as men, you're brought into this world, and I'm sure you guys were taught the standard that from an early age, you don't cry, you don't feel feelings. And if you do, you often get hit, you get reprimanded, you get whatever it is. And so you're told by feeling feelings, that's it's weakness, but it's brought in an aspect that undermines women's strength. So, you know, I'm not sure if we can cuss on here, but you know, they say like, you're being a pussy, or you're being a little bitch, you throw like a girl, right? So not only are you taught that by feeling feelings and by understanding your weaknesses in order to build them, you just don't feel them. And to go as far as to even feeling them is feminine, and feminine is bad, right? So, I mean, I think it moves so much more into just, we don't welcome women into the service of doing what a man can do, but there's the low-key, thought that we don't even like women. They're less than.
Yeah, I mean, that's...
And so when it comes to having a toolkit of dealing with your confliction, your internal confliction, and you don't have anything to help you navigate those emotions that are going to come up, especially when you've gone through traumatic events like war,
which we perpetually have since
correct?
our founding.
So then you have to rectify in your mind, how do I ask a woman how to navigate this when they are in fact weaker, right? So, and because it's something that's so ingrained from the time you're a boy.
It's generational.
100%.
I mean, really, since our founding. I mean, if you think about it, and that's...
It's generational for men. I think that women broke that a long time ago.
Yeah, I think so. And when you're looking at that, so when we're talking about being conflicted, and then that golden era that was brought up in some of the things that I read, and it being a fallacy, is like, because we have been perpetually at war, literally, since our founding, 1776 on. You know, the war with the British in the 1800s when they came back in 18.
Mm-hmm.
The Civil War, post-Civil War. You know, going into the First World War, World War II. When you're looking at time spans that in historical space, I mean, to us they may seem like a long time, but in reality they're not. When you're going from war to war between 20 and 40 years, well, in between each one of those times, there's a father fighting in that war who likely had kids during that war, whose kids grew up during the war, whose now grandpa was in war, whose sons go to war, and it's been perpetual. And each along those lines, as those guys have come, we know what war does to folks.
So, but is the perpetuation of war out of habit or out of default? I mean, are we essentially in danger, really, or are we fighting wars because that's what men do?
You know, that I think is when you're looking at, well, you know, why we go to war and why we do things. There's, you know.
I mean, I'm asking you because you're a history buff. Like what?
Right, like, you know, it is, but you know, there's men as figures. So let's look at, you know, like World War One. Does everybody know how World War One started?
Yeah, with the assassination.
Totally.
Totally not. Right?
Totally.
With the assassination of, what was his name? Franz Ferdinand, right? Yeah, Franz Ferdinand was the Archduke of wherever the fuck, I can't remember. Yeah. But you know, he was assassinated. Hence, that war started, and it was men, you know, trying to gain more territory. So by doing that, they assassinated him, and then the war began, and then, you know, it was the French and the Germans, and they're all into it, and then the world looked at it and said, hey, we don't like this. The Brits got involved, and then when they got involved, the death toll started to rise, and, you know, then the Americans got involved and said, hey, we can't let this, you know, we can't let the Kaiser, you know, overrun Europe. We can't have him, you know, dominate Europe. So, you know,
that was a choice, right?
It was a choice,
because at this point we don't.
It was 100%.
We don't
choice.
have a nearest land enemy that's going to come here.
No, we don't.
There's a gun in every household. Like we don't, as an American
No.
country, have.
There's 10 guns in this room. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So, sorry. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Probably more than
that. You know what I mean? But
we sell freedom.
We do sell freedom. Right here. We sell freedom.
When you're talking about that, so historically, we had just come out of the Civil War.
Yeah.
We were doing post-Civil War activities.
Correct.
At that time.
We were trying to rebuild the nation.
Rebuilding a nation.
Correct.
Still.
Yeah.
At that time.
100%.
When, you know, we were just figuring things out.
Yeah.
And by the time World War I kicked off.
Right.
You know.
And maybe that's when it worked best because, like you said, you know, the women were here to fight and deal with things. You know, everybody had a functioning peace.
And then,
you know, we didn't have you know, all the luxuries that we have right now. So women that were left back to maintain a household and land. I mean, these were hundreds of acres
to run
of land.
households, to run farms.
Yeah,
100%.
I mean, that was a job. That was a big job, you know, and they were stepping up and doing their husband's
And then
work.
the guys came back, and they just fell back right into the role, and the woman got swept back to the side, and it was like, hey, deal with the kids, deal with this, go milk the cows, I'll go do the thing.
But as they came back, and
Right.
that's kind of what I'm getting at with these perpetual wars. Those guys are coming back broken.
Yeah.
They're not just coming back. Like,
It's not true because I think in World War I and World War II, when we welcomed our heroes back, they were still heroes. It wasn't really
They were
until
heroes.
Vietnam
They were
that we
heroes.
But they
saw.
were broken.
Absolutely.
They were broken,
heroes,
but there was healing happening internally because they knew where to turn. Okay, the strength of the woman was still there, and I think it was still so dependent on.
I think
and
you're
it was
right.
it was during the Vietnam War when we saw our troops coming back, broken to the point where not only were they broken coming back, but our country had turned against them.
That's the.
So
that's
there was
the
a
key
duality
point.
of
That's the
brokenness.
key point right there.
So I think, I think
When
each of the wars, you know, because you had World War I, World War II, those guys were seeing, I mean, definitely
horrendous
things
mustard
that
gas,
anybody,
fields of
you know,
death,
World War
trench
I,
warfare, all for that.
These
Yeah.
things are ferociously just nasty. So there's no way to come back from that.
Yeah.
You're a hero. Nobody's
100%.
debating that.
Nobody
At all.
And the women are welcomed back with open arms. And then
If their husbands came back,
Correct.
they would welcome these guys back. But we know what nowadays we have the foresight and the knowledge of what PTSD.
There was tremendous
traumatic.
romance back then, though, too. There was letters, there was couriers, there was a romance to life that I think is missing.
I think it was romanticized. I think a lot of that was romanticized.
Romance is romanticized.
No.
There's no such thing as true
It was
romance.
tremendous romance. I agree with you 100%. It was tremendous romance. It took time to put pen to paper, pencil to paper, whatever it was, in a trench, in the mud, in the blood, and write those letters and hope that they made it home. So yes, 100% I agree
so
with you.
romantic.
It is 100%. But our generation, we see those things and we're like, we only know that from stories and movies. So we look at that and we're like,
maybe,
dude, that dude's badass. Like he loved that
Grandma had
shit.
Noah loved Dali.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You know, you might have seen those letters, maybe from
Right.
World War II or something like that.
Right.
So,
Oh my
those
God, yeah.
guys-
My grandpa had like a hope chest that had
100%.
tons and tons of letters between he and my grandma. And it was, that was a beautiful thing.
But the generations after, and then to get a little weird here, but motion picture and all that kind of stuff, in books, like they romanticized that. You know, it's like
which is very true. Like,
it is,
they
right?
They still romanticize it today. You know,
Right.
and you see the shows and
navigate that, and he really doesn't want to.
and
I
that's
think the
thing.
important
You have
specification here
generations
too
of men
is that
don't know how to navigate that.
Oh,
they
no.
don't even want to
100%.
have these conversations.
But there's a dichotomy of men right now. Okay, so right now we're talking about a very specific community that cannot and will not reach out for a lot of super solid reasons.
Yeah.
I mean, there's the whole,
They could
reason
be
behind
punished.
it.
Yeah.
You can be punished, because it is considered
Not
weakness.
punished, but you're
I mean, you could
You're gonna
lose
decide
a lot.
Yeah.
You could
You're gonna
lose
get
a lot of
pinched.
things that you consider very important to you if you are not holding a place of secure masculinity.
For fear of your peers looking at you
That's weak.
as weak.
Yeah.
You know?
Jim,
He's like,
Well, and
whatever,
weakness
he's
translates
sobbing.
to unreliability where you
Correct.
come
Yeah.
from. So I mean,
Exactly.
that's. But then there's, I think, a lot of men that are getting the help, and then there's a middle ground of men that are stuck in a place where they haven't had, I think, I'll call it the fortune of doing what you guys have done, which is experiencing the fight and really exerting a level of masculinity that makes you feel alive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, so they haven't had that ability, and they also haven't got help. So they're in this middle, like, good guy experience where they're passive aggressive, they're quite frankly dangerous to women because did you read the article recently about how more and more men basically they're not getting laid, so they're super unhappy, they're not dating, they're falling to the wayside.
It's like 63% of, like, and I'm not sure how big the segment was that they polled.
It's a
but-
substantial amount
and
of
that's the
average white men.
part of this confliction and it's the inverse of that triangle that we're talking about, where it's security is no longer an issue. So now men really have a choice to be. Sadly, I mean,
Security is
they can be,
always an
it's
issue. It just
there,
depends
but
on who
it's-
you're looking
yeah,
at.
it just
Okay,
depends
because
on what-
again, as women, do we need security? Yeah, from those same mediocrity white males that are not getting laid,
Well, I think
and the
it-
past
I think-
4 mass shooters have been the same dudes who leave letters that are like, she wanted to have sex, but not with me, so I'm gonna go shoot up a high school or a college or whatever it is. I mean, like, these dudes are going and they're committing horrific travesties against women, right? So do women need protection still? Absolutely. It's just not from other countries or other things. It's from men who aren't able to face their emotions in a solid state and say, I can protect you in a way that allows you to expand.
and not be a detriment.
Correct.
Which, going back to the comment you said, I think this transcends race. I think it doesn't matter who you are.
Oh no, yeah, no.
In America
I
today,
think it's
there's
super easy to say that as white dudes.
there's men. That,
Knock it off.
I think
Yeah.
men. I
No,
think men
I
in
think you're
general
right, bro.
have a problem saying this.
Oh,
I
man.
mean, you look
Yeah.
at some of the issues within all of the communities.
Yeah.
Are you really going to go there? Are you going? I mean, how many times a week do you watch podcasts from black males? Because I would go so far as to say that black males right now are the pinnacle of really laying groundwork for what an emotionally available man who protects his woman is doing.
A bunch. I watched quite a few.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's
100%.
We can't
Yeah,
dismiss
100%.
that. We can't just say it, because here's the thing: we
TBD.
don't want
Send
to.
them to me later.
I will.
Okay.
We don't want to just lump in.
I watched 2 today.
This problem is only for one race, because
Yeah.
it's
Agree.
not.
Agree.
This is affecting everybody. It doesn't really matter.
Also, though, it is a super white male thing to say that we represent everybody, because we absolutely do not. And we do not know the plight of the
100%.
That we represent
African
everybody
American
on what
or
front?
the indigenous human on anything.
Well, no, because we're all white people sitting in this room right now.
Correct.
Correct.
I'm Italian.
Yeah, same. So,
I don't know what I am.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I'm a mutt. But hey, whatever.
Yeah.
I'll take what I can get. But
I think that this
the
is a
problems that we
nationwide
have
issue, but I
is
don't think that we can speak for
there's
other.
different, I think, levels. Yeah, for sure. I think are there problems within the
we're speaking
African-American
generally
community?
for men
Yeah,
here.
we're
at
in
this
general
point.
for
generally
men.
for men. here.
As we try to improve ourselves as
Yeah.
beings, as quadrupeds here.
Correct.
We want to go from knuckle draggers to actually being able to articulate ourselves, articulate what we're saying, articulate our feelings, and not think that if I say, hey, man, I'm having a really bad day because work is being a pain in my ass, right? This week
Mhm.
my boss is riding my ass. I'm doing the best I can. He won't get off of me. Who do I say that to? How do I say that? How do we build that communication gap? And I think men across the board, no matter the race, are internalizing a lot of that. And that's part of the problem is it's breeding that internal confliction of what am I here to do?
Right.
Where am I? What is my place in this world? Whether I'm white, black, Chinese, it doesn't matter. What am I supposed to be doing? What is my part? What is my wife's part?
Is she calling it?
How
Are you
does
calling
that?
it?
How do I fit into this piece? And then at the same time, you have all this stuff in society where it's masculinity's toxic. This is that. You've got, and we can go on and on and on and on about how masculinity is being attacked within, I would say, the media. I think it's an American thing, but maybe it's globally. But and then we look at hey, everything that you do as a man is bad. And then the women look at the men and say, well, why are you not doing what you should be doing? Why are you not able to articulate your feelings?
This is all
Why
sitting in
are
a
you
place
not-
of you're
How do we
wondering, but you're not
improve-
asking questions. When's the last time you asked your woman a very specific question, like, how
don't
can I
think-
do this for
That's
you?
the thing. I don't think men know how to ask the questions. They don't even know what
Agree.
to do.
I can assure you I don't know how to ask
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah, I
We
can't
don't know how to
speak for him.
articulate it. One, we don't even know what those feelings are. We
Sure,
have been
and
told
also-
our entire lives, all of that stuff that you're feeling,
Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
that is, shut up, be quiet.
Bottle it
Don't
up.
Bottle it up. That's not
Go make
the
money,
way
cut the
to go.
grass, fix the stuff.
Exactly.
Right.
So
And as mission-oriented people, I think also you have the idea that when you take on a task, there's a beginning and an end.
Yeah.
And when it comes to emotions, and when it comes to healing, and when it comes to doing the work that you guys are going to have to do in order to catch up, it's a never-ending process. There's not a big. You're going to have to sit in it over and over and over. And maybe today you're like, I'm really sad. I'm feeling these things. Tomorrow you're good. The next day you're good. And then the next day you're bad again, and you feel sad and you feel these things and you have to put names to them, and it doesn't end. There's no end to the process. And
that's life. I mean, life is going to throw you problems every day.
Daily.
So I
Daily.
think men need to, and this is probably another generality, but we understanding that, hey, life is going to be tough. No one said that this little journey we're on is going to be easy. Yeah, there's going to be wins. Maybe you get one a week. Maybe you don't. Maybe, and there's choices in there that are made, which we can't exclude that. If you make bad choices and you end up in bad places, well, there might be one person to blame for that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that life doesn't have implications for you, but if you make bad choices, most likely bad things are going to happen. So you can't then come back and say, well, why is my life a mess? Well, you've made really poor choices, bro. You need to own
there
the
is
problems,
such
and then-
an intense back history to why those choices were made, though. And I think men holding each other accountable by saying, well, you made that choice and therefore you must sit in it, is the exact issue that we're having. Because the question is, why did you make that decision? What in you pushed you to a place where you thought that was the best decision for you, and how do we navigate through it? And I think you're right. I don't think that men have the even ability right now to ask the questions they need to ask to get them where they need to be, or even to get them started.
No, I don't think they do. I'm glad to hear that they're.
I don't think a lot of them do. I think dudes are learning.
Yeah, hopefully this is becoming.
Did you say them?
I said dudes
Them.
are learning.
Other dudes.
Other dudes.
I think dudes are learning. Dudes as a general term are learning.
Which is a good thing, which I think that is the complete point of this podcast is we have to change the narrative.
Yeah.
If we are going to grow as a society and grow as dudes, we have to get past some historical things.
We have to get past ourselves.
Draw that back. So the narrative comes from where? The narrator.
Yeah.
Right?
Or,
and
I
so
mean,
if
the
you're going to
history that we
dictate
have.
words to another human being, then your story has to be one where your mess is your message. So you have to have sat deeply in that discomfort, the heartbreak, the pain, the suffering, the understanding that the shit you went through as a child was traumatic as fuck.
Yeah.
You know, your parents telling you don't have feelings because you're a man, that's trauma. That's complex trauma. And that's something that is going to take years to navigate. And then the narrator becomes the narrative, because you can say to other men, this is literally the hardest thing I've ever done. And I've been to war. I've killed people. I've done the missions. I've done the whatever, you guys have behind you. And sitting and dealing with what I had to deal with in order to be a healthy human being that contributed to a relationship and society, and understanding, because we don't have a masculine role. We have individual masculine roles, and what you want to do as a man and what you want to do as a man are completely different. And how you show up as a man in your marriage has everything to do with that woman right there, and nothing to do with these two people or anybody listening. She's amazing. We love her.
The best.
But that's I think, the issue we have, and it is going to take some time. So you talked about how women over time have been able to build a circle.
Mm-hmm.
A circle of trust, whatever you want to call it, a pack. I think it's inherent in some of the things that women have historically. Women have always kind of been together over time. It's
And they
because
will.
They've had that kind of network where the men were either singular or they're going out and they're coming back. But how do you build the same type of thing that women have built over generations? I mean,
Yeah.
we're talking a long time. This
So
doesn't
we
really
have just,
exist
and
for
I think
men.
it's
I know.
super important that we put context to this, that women are just now, and I don't want to say women in general, I want to say healthy women are just now getting to the point where our circle is more important than anything else, more important than the man. And I don't want to say our kids, but like it's such a quintessential portion of who we are as a healthy human being. And we have been over decades, over centuries, force-fed the narrative that women don't get along, that we don't run in packs, that women are, the whole cat fight narrative. We were told from early on, really, that our only objective was to be pretty, be attractive, just enough. You got to be just smart enough, not too smart, just smart enough, just accomplished enough, right? And so as a woman, you reach a point where you're like, okay, I'm attractive enough, I'm these things. That's for a man. When you build that circle of women, it is a completely different dynamic, because your women's circle holds you capable. You have to be 1,000 times better than you're ever going to be for a man, for your woman's circle. You have to work hard. You have to be honest. You have to be able to sit with your shit. And finding that is a very intense process of knowing that you're not going to accept less. And achieving that circle helps everything in your life. And I think that men, when you guys are holding yourselves capable, it's more than just, am I the biggest, baddest dude? Am I good in a fight? Am I, good with a gun? Whatever, I don't know, whatever you guys think is cool
Problem is,
lately.
and I've encountered this a lot lately. When guys get around and they get in a circle and they come together as friends to
Can
solve
they
a problem.
see him? Can they see that he's giant and okay?
Oh.
Because I think it's important that everybody knows.
No,
Right.
when we get around in our circles and we get around with our friends. What's
Go
up? Big Papa. When we get around with our friends, you know, this is a thing I've come to understand here in the last few years. We tend to distract ourselves. We distract ourselves with gun talk. We distract ourselves with hot rod talk. We distract ourselves with sports. We get together
Alcohol.
and we distract ourselves with alcohol.
Whatever.
We distract ourselves. Like JD's having a hard time, man. Let's bring him into the fold, man, and we're gonna go do this thing. We're gonna do a boys' day. You know.
Sure.
we're
My
gonna go
God!
do
Let's
this.
sit right there for
We're
a
gonna-
second. Let's sit right there. I'm gonna go ahead and take this over because
We're not having these conversations.
We're not having the
You're
conversations the
not.
women are having.
We may be together like the women do.
because
Right,
you're
that's- and that's where I'm
sitting
going with
as
it.
boys.
Yeah,
you
we
guys
will
are
not
Peter
talk.
panning out
Yeah.
and being like, if we grow up, we have to be accountable. So let's Peter Pan. Let's do the Lost Boy thing. Women stopped doing that. We stopped being girls in high school and college, and we did the same thing. Oh, so and so broke up with their boyfriend. We're gonna go booze and meet dudes and get hit on or whatever. Go to the bar, and now,
Which still goes on. I mean, we're all still doing.
sure, I'm saying.
Pump the brakes there, big shooter. I was going with, we get together.
Did you just interrupt me?
I
Are you
did.
mansplaining right now?
I'm not. I was only saying
Yeah, mansplaining.
that.
Can you, like, zoom in right
so
here?
Here's the thing. Exactly.
This motherfucker.
Mansplaining. What is this?
Mansplaining.
Men can't even explain anything because, again, they get told they're mansplaining.
Right.
So you can't have it both ways.
You
You
can't-
literally
can't
just
tell the man-
mansplained what
Mansplaining.
mansplaining
Exactly.
is.
You can't tell the man, hey, I want you to talk, and then as soon as he starts talking, you say he's mansplaining.
Right.
Because
You can't have it both
mansplaining
ways,
is
you know, you gotta say, hey, I'm gonna listen.
You just woman-splained the shit
Yeah,
out of
now
our
you're
boys' day with
woman-splaining.
us.
Now it's woman-splaining. So how do we functionally, and this is
By listening.
another
Right, and that's where I was
conversation.
going with that. We don't listen to each other,
Yeah.
is what
Yeah.
I'm saying. We get together, we got our buddy who's feeling blue, we take him out, we're going to go golf, we're going to go to the racetrack, we're going to distract you with shenanigans.
We're not going out to validate.
We're not going to go out to validate his feelings. We're going to go out there and we're going to say, F that, bro.
Yeah.
We're going to go. We're going to go hit golf balls. We're going to go shoot guns. We're going to go play with hot
Guns.
rods. We're going to the gun show. We're going here. We're going there. We're going to do a thing to distract you from what is overall making you a mess right now.
And he's
Nobody's
gonna
going to
walk
address the
away.
issue.
No, and he's going to walk away from that and have to go right
Back to the issue.
Back to the issue, and he still
100%.
again functionally
100%.
has no tools like the women do.
Correct.
Because they have a circle, they've got the tools. They've they figured it out over time. Hey, it's okay to do X, or you need to go this way, go that way. We don't do that, so we come out of that. No tool bag whatsoever.
Nothing.
And then go right back and expect it to
You know what my
be
tool bag
okay.
is? I'm going to call JD and I'm going to go get fucked up.
Yeah.
so you guys mansplain to each other,
Right.
essentially.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a mansplaining circle of, hey,
Yeah.
we're not even acknowledging that. So how do you change then?
Yeah.
It's no surprise that
Yeah.
guys are conflicted because we have no idea
So let me ask you a question.
what feelings we need.
You
to
guys are
talk
both
about,
having
even-
the feelings, you guys are
Yeah,
both
whatever.
agreeing. When's the last time you found a healthy woman you were like, how do I navigate this?
Well, I have mine. She's over there. Our one.
And I have a
videographer.
question from the backside, who's just the
Question.
videographer, of
Mrs.
to the men, are your emotions just intimidating? So it's easier for you to ignore them, to sink them, to cover them up with a rug, than actually approach an issue? And why?
100%.
But
This
why?
is for the men? I can't answer that for them.
Absolutely.
Nope, this is
I'll
for the
answer
men.
I would say men do not want to talk about this.
Nope.
At all.
And I'll answer her question. I found a great one and couldn't get out of my own way.
Yeah, it's men do not want to talk about this. It's
Only one person can do something about that there,
and,
Joey.
and it's our as
Preach, girl.
a man as
Can we
as
bring Kelly
men,
on?
It's they don't want to talk to it. So how
No.
do we give men the tools? you know.
How you get out of your own way.
How do we build that circle?
How do you get out
Yeah.
of
How
your
do
way?
you teach guys to be able to get out of their own way and say, hey, listen, whatever the problem is, it could be a small problem, it could be a very large problem.
What if
It
you're
doesn't
looking
matter, but
at something
how do
that's
we improve?
big enough that it's going to last hundreds of years, right? So the best time to plant a tree was 30 years ago. The second best time was today, right? So what if you're looking at it and you're saying, I may literally never get to a point where I can reconcile inside of myself a healthy emotional state? Because I've been doing it for 15 years ish, and every single day I am still in a place of internal tumultitude because of where I came from. I've done the things, I've built the circle, I have support. It's a different feeling than you guys have, but it's still work every single day. So what if it's not, you guys have healing to completion, but you begin by telling your sons, telling the next generation of men, the most important thing you can do is have a healthy emotional circle, a healthy emotional support partner, whether that's a woman or a man or whatever it is, and you're passing on to the next generation, especially of war fighters, that the only way you're going to get through this, because we will never not be at war, it's what we do, the only way you're going to get through this is to have a healthy emotional basis, and this is what we hope it looks like for you.
Yeah, and I mean, the first thing you have to acknowledge is acknowledge the problem.
100%, dude.
And you know, if you don't want to change, if you don't want to know, you don't have to know. That's the glory of today, especially in today's society.
Mm-hmm.
You can swipe away problems, you can delete problems, you can
Block problems.
digitally hide, you can totally hermit yourself today emotionally if you want to. And I think that's the first thing you have to do is if you want to make change, then make the change with it. You have to start somewhere.
100%.
You have to acknowledge the problem, which is, I think, in general,
Why is that intimidating for a man?
men don't have.
They just
I don't think it's not, so when we say intimidating, I think it's an important word, because intimidating means slightly scared but able to overcome. Okay, when we look at what men are capable of doing say a wartime situation, a fight, okay, we have a lot of chicks that can fight, but for the most part, you know, we'll say that, you know, men are going to stand up for a fight. When it comes to a feeling, so if I get, let's say we're out somewhere and we get in a fight, am I armed? Yes. Am I dangerous? Obviously. Is my fight or flight instinct still highly engaged to the point that I'm nervous and probably terrified? Absolutely. Okay. Do they feel the same way in an armed fight? Probably not. They immediately go to a very calm place because their training is that they can handle the situation from a calm place, and the calm place is the only way to handle the situation. So when we talk about a man experiencing a large feeling, their body is going into fight or flight. It is literally life or death for them.
Can confirm.
So when we talk about what their nervous system is doing to them in a state of encountering an emotion that they want to feel, they know it's there, they literally do not have a toolkit to deal with. They don't have somebody to turn to ask, what do I do? What even is this? Like, we have as women been able to name a myriad. I literally have on my refrigerator an emotional chart that has probably 100 emotions named on it. And I work on it. I feel it. I sit there and I look at it and I see melancholy and I go to that space and I can feel it, okay? So for men, they still have the paradigm of a 4-year-old. Happy, sad, mad, right? It's the smiley, frowny faces.
Sad, mad, glad.
Yeah. And anything outside of that, anything that comes to a place that is in a in a space where they don't have the toolkit to deal with, their nervous system goes into fight or flight. It is life or death, and all they can do is
it's I can almost speak for all men right now. I'm gonna
Lay it on me.
for the most part, men would rather be doing anything other than talking about their feelings in any capacity, let alone thinking about it.
Yeah,
Thinking
yeah.
about it's bad enough.
Yeah.
We have a toilet
Let
for you to
alone,
clean.
you know, saying it and being able to talk about it
Yeah.
and articulate it. I mean,
Or
we're talking-
dive deep into it.
dive deep into it.
God
you know.
forbid.
Yeah. God,
well,
you
and
know.
that's where the gap exists, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
women have been
100%.
doing it for so long. So we sit down, we have a conversation, and we're like, okay, cool, we navigated this.
I mean, I can hear
And
the
it
eye
takes
rolls right now from men
days.
across the world going, "Oh my God,
Bro.
these guys! You want me to go sit down and sing Kumbaya and that?"
But-
Which is how do we do it
Yeah.
in a man way?
I go outside and change spark plug in
I
the
think
lawnmower.
it takes
have
like
their way.
sitting here, like you're saying,
How do
and
we-
recognizing the fact that this is super fucking hard for you, and you're two of like the toughest dudes I know, right? So if
CA,
we're
is that
looking
what
at-
we want? Do we want him to sing Kumbaya? Do we want him to be super sensitive and super emotional? Is that what a woman's expectation is?
I can't speak for all women because I definitely am not all women, but I do think that, you know, being able to sit down and say, man, I want to partner you. I want to make something work for the long term. I see in you a human that can go the distance with me. And in order to do that, we are going to have to sit with some really big things, especially the way that life is changing right now. You know, what we mentioned the patriarchy earlier, and I think a lot of people are moving away from a unified God. You know, there's a lot of people who are accepting. I mean, there's so many couples now that are non-monogamous and polyamorous, and there's people who are opening up the fact that what you're raised to be is not what you are right now. And in order to grow together, if you're looking at somebody and you're like, man, I love you, I want to be with you, and this can be romantic, friend, family, I am committed to being the best version of myself every day, and I want you to commit to that too, which means you're gonna have to change over time, and that change is going to require communication
and work.
and words.
Mhm.
So much work and words. And so there is a mission there, and I think it's articulating to a man that there is a mission. This is what the mission looks like, and this is how we get there. Because men are so invested in hard work, and they're invested in outcome, right? And we as women have kind of accepted that there's no outcome. There's a constant emotional state, and that is our strength as women. And so it's finding that we can sit with a man and him look at us as being strong for doing what we've done, the work that we've done. Not weak because we have emotion, not weak because we can navigate things that you cannot. And creating space for you to unfold in that, because I think it's going to be a century or so before men can truly be completely healed.
And then even then, like you said, this isn't a one and done.
No.
You know, that's the whole crux of this thing. Is it's never a one and done. There is no start finish.
Yeah.
This is a lifelong journey that men and women are going to have to. It's a constant
To undertake
it's-
together, man. They have to.
It's a
They have to.
constant thing that is going to have to be.
And that's the flip side of the pyramid that you had, which is now men looking at the fact that you guys have created such a safe space for our country, and we are developing music and art and culture and philosophy, and it's a good time for you guys to enrapture yourself in that. And it takes letting down a lot of walls, and letting down walls takes coaching. It really does, you know, especially when you've been in a position for so long where every single move you make is contingent on life or death.
Well, especially guys like us, you got, you know, with a nervous system conditioned over 20 years of war to do to go and to do and to be in the places we've been in, even if it wasn't a permissive environment, semi-permissive environment, absolutely denied environment, those guys come back and they're our age, man, and they're trying to figure it out, and they're trying to find that happy balance, and they have to find the person to put them on the path to kind of find that happy balance, to enjoy all the things you were saying, the art, the other things, and to do the other things, and to go and look at that, and within the dynamic of for lack of a better term, the dude group, right?
Yep.
That it's just the same old things. We're going to sit around, we're going to talk about the same old things, we're going to do the same old things, we're going
We've
to
been doing it for years,
you have to find,
centuries. They've been doing
and the women that are in our lives at those points have to understand that it's going to be a process, maybe.
This isn't going to happen overnight.
No,
for sure.
man,
And
it's going to be a process.
You have to have a willing partner who's
Yep.
willing to, and that's a whole nother segment we can get into,
Mhm.
which we will in another episode. Toxicity is
Whole nother segment.
a whole nother segment on toxicity.
Yeah.
Stay tuned. But is having the willing partner on both sides.
Yeah.
I think one of the things you said earlier was, as far as, I think this again transcends race and transcends whether you're in the LGBTQ, they're dealing with the same problem.
Sure, man.
It doesn't matter whether you're married to a woman, two men, these very same things are going to apply. There's natural roles that are going to kind of come out, and it's going to cause a communication problem. There's going to be conflict. You're going to have to be able to work through things. And if you don't, as a man, whether you're a gay man or a lesbian or whatever, and you're trying to, if you can't articulate the problem,
There's no solving it.
There's no solving it. So it doesn't really matter, you have to be able to acknowledge it and be able to articulate it and say, hey, it's okay. Okay, how do I do this? How do
Not everybody also has the advantages of a trained professional.
Yeah. How do I navigate these waters? And luckily, I think today there are a lot more, I would say, opportunities for people to seek help. Now, whether that help is good or bad, those.
The opportunity to seek help and the encouragement to seek help are very different, though.
Yeah,
Correct.
There's things
Yeah.
there, but it's not a one and done either. You're not going to be able to go to psychiatrist X or counselor X and be like, okay, here's my problems, and boom, you're fixed. That is not how it works.
No, it doesn't work that way.
You, across the board, are going to have to work on it. It's going to be a lifelong journey, no matter who you are, man, woman, it doesn't matter. And getting through that is going to lessen then for the man side, that conflicted side of you. What is my role? Well, one, you have to understand yourself first. You have to know who am I as a person? What are the things I'm doing in my life that may be toxic to myself, so that I can improve improve our fighting position. You're supposed to do that, every day. Okay, how do I improve myself? Well, that requires self-reflection. You have to look at yourself. You have to say, okay, am I doing the right things for myself? Am I doing the right things for my family? Am I doing the right things for my children? You have to want to do that.
You're again going back to a place, though, where the man is deriving all that information from himself internally instead of asking the questions.
Yeah. And acknowledge the fact that there is a problem. And if you can't figure out what those are,
Mm-hmm.
if you make your list and you're like, well, I got a long list here, and you don't have that circle yet, which I think that's the end goal of all of this. Men need to have the circle like women have a circle, and it needs to be.
It's a very complex problem.
It needs to be a healthy circle where it's not bars and booze and cigarettes and hookers and blow that are trying to get to the problem. That's
Well,
not
it's
gonna fix
also
it,
not 6 or 7 dudes that are like, hey, we all need help, let's get together.
Well, like I said, it's a complex problem, though. Dudes are very hard at it.
Yeah.
Dudes don't want to reach out for help. Men don't want to reach out for help. So they don't want to be told, this is what you have to do.
Yeah.
By a woman. You have to do this.
Yeah.
Or it's not going to work.
So
This-
from the outside,
Yeah.
what you're saying is that a man can wrap his head around an issue if they are presented, say, the issue. Say, hey, you're staying out too late. Do you think, should we pose a question? Would that work better for a man to pose a question?
No, here's the thing, and I love this. I don't know if everybody heard it, but Kelly essentially just asked, how does a woman go about approaching this with a man? Is that
approaching
a
the
good
issue.
synopsis of what you said? Okay, so the gap exists in that we're kind of done doing that, okay? Because we can do it on our own.
But
And
should
so
we
if you need
be
help,
done?
it's time to say, I need help. And it's a reduction of ego.
100%.
It's a reduction of ego because you have to be able to say, you just said, ask a woman.
What I was going with, most men they're not receptive to being told
what to do.
do.
That could be a man. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's why I said
You
men.
tell me to go cut my grass right now. I'm going to say no.
No, fuck you, man. I'm not going to kill my guys. They don't like being told what to
For
do.
what it's worth,
So
that's
most,
Just because.
yeah, most
That's true. I would totally go mow it.
most men don't like being told what to do.
So
And
for
the-
you guys, that's
yeah.
my question
Yeah.
is for you guys, would it be easier for you to kind of figure out what the root of the issue is if we pose the question to have you guys think about it and internalize it rather than telling you, I need this?
So Kelly's saying
I
that
do-
if
I
we
do.
ask the
Are you
question,
wanting to explain?
is it, I want to make sure that they can hear her because I don't know that they can. Kelly's asked the question, is it better for the men if we ask them, if we come to them and say, is this what you need? Is that correct? Is that what you asked?
Is this what you need, or pose a question to them if I feel that this is bothering you, have you thought about this, to kind of invoke a thought process, let them internalize to actually say, okay, maybe
100%.
that is.
Yes, and I'm going to answer for him. I'm a woman-splain this, okay?
Oh,
and I'm going to
sure
do it for this
you are.
reason because for every man that I've ever seen actually step out of his ego and heighten his awareness as a man, it came only at the expense of a relationship. Only at the expense of actually losing something that meant something to him.
So less
So we have
initiated.
a whole slew of mediocre men that maybe there's women out there telling them what to do, but are they raising their own awareness? No, they're just being told what to do. What we're asking of men is for them to envelop their divine masculine in order to embrace a different way of being. So it's not what you guys are looking for, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm woman-splaining right now,
Mm-hmm.
is that
100%.
you want to find the best way of being the best man you can be. Yes?
I would, for the most part, agree with that for most men. They want to be the best man they can be.
The best man you can be. So when we look at that and we say, okay, if we can't look at that across the board, you, JD, want to be the best man you can be for that woman right there. Yeah?
Correct.
What is that? What's the definition?
Well, and I don't think that's the thing.
It's between you two, right?
There is. Well, and I don't think you can just define because everybody's different.
Everybody's different, but we're
Everybody's
sitting at this
asking to
table
define
knowing
a
for a
woman.
fact that what
Define
it
a
came
man.
down to between you two, and this is the reality, is that it comes down to the loss or gain of the thing you want.
Yeah.
That you rise to become the human being you can become. And there's a constant check in there. Now, over time, that can change and become different, and you're partnered. So then you have to ask your partner, right? And then it is also your obligation to find men who are committed to also being an elevated partner in the same spectrum that you are, because there's millions of men right now who are failing and succeeding.
Well, I mean, we're the biggest group of people getting ladies right now, are men.
True story.
So, and we've been doing it for millennia. So how do you
think
tell
that's true.
men, how do you tell men, hey, it's okay to work through these things? How do we give them the tools?
I don't think you do. I think, and I want you specifically to correct me if I'm wrong.
Self-elevate, you know.
Does it come from consistent work and saying, this is what I need, what Kelly just asked, this is what I need, this is what I want. I've come to you with every single way that I can pose this question, or I'm done posing the question, you ask your own questions.
Yeah. No, it comes, yeah. No.
It's the expectation of you stepping up and being a man and not the coddling.
Yeah. I think you're right there.
So right.
So I think,
But it's different for each man. Each man has his own internal struggle that he has to deal with. And again, and it's like this for women. Some women are more hard to
It
hit
is a
than
broad
others.
spectrum.
Not a broad spectrum.
Completely broad spectrum.
No, each man is his own individual man.
Each man
And
is his own
each
individual man, and he raises up. And we can look at this historically.
Yeah.
We can look at romantically.
Yeah.
We can look at it wherever you want. Every man that has risen up and done something to elevate himself outside of his immediate demographic is because he's been cut off from something that he wants.
it's come at a cost. I would say
At a cost.
I like that.
something.
It's come at a cost.
At a cost.
Something in their life
Something
has
that he
caused
wants.
them to recognize
God forbid
the
us
current
separate.
path that I am on is not right. So
How do I
But
put
we-
myself
but
on the
we
correct path
but
in
we
order
wanna-
to?
what we want to do is we want to get ahead of that curve. We don't want it
Oh,
to
yeah,
get
yeah,
to
yeah.
the
No,
breaking
no,
point
no, no,
before
no.
men realize I've got a problem.
That's what this is
So
about
That's
right here.
what this is about.
Yeah.
How do we become less conflicted as men? One,
100%.
understanding ourselves, which first and foremost is being self-reflexive.
What if you're getting way too far ahead and you're just able to tell men, hey, when you get to that breaking point, here's what you do? Because you have to
I think we're
recognize
saying the same
what's...
thing right there, right? Before they get to that breaking point, before that
You're
thing.
saying before. I'm saying
Yeah.
it takes them getting to the breaking point.
And that's what we're saying though. Before, that's what you just said.
we
Before it gets
wanna-
to that breaking point.
We want to, because the breaking point could be bad.
Yeah.
We don't want men.
No.
I don't want any men, any future men, to get to a breaking point
No.
to then say, this, now it may take that. It may absolutely take.
The bottom line is the
the
mess is the
loss-
message.
the
So
loss
whether
of
it's
something.
now or later, it is going to take enough men having gotten to the breaking point, coming back from that and saying it's not worth it to get to that place.
To other men.
Yeah,
to
which
other
is-
men.
Oh,
that's
yeah. No, 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 no.
And that's
Yeah,
where
yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
we're at right
Yeah.
now is we're saying, hey, for men that have been at that breaking point,
Don't let it get here,
have
bro.
crossed that breaking
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
Don't let it get there and these are the steps to do that.
Yeah.
Hey, bro, here's the circle, which I think we absolutely need to build, and it doesn't have to be a kumbaya circle.
Nope.
It can be something else, but it needs to be a
Sharpening
healthy,
sticks, whatever.
It could be it needs to be a healthy circle, and I think within our community, I think that's growing. But when we
Yeah.
look, that's a very niche view. When we look outside of our community, how are normal, everyday, day-to-day civilians doing that? The guy that's going to the bank 9 to 5.
Yeah.
How is he doing that?
From
How
the
is the guy
outside.
doing the plumber, the banker, the HVAC guy, whoever, the doctor,
Mhm.
the brain surgeon? How are men doing this? Because we always like to fall back to our community, but this is a
Yeah.
very
The
niche
dude working
community.
15 hours a week,
Yeah,
you
he's
know, in
15
the
hours
ER.
a week,
Or 15 hours a day, rather,
Yeah.
in the ER, you know.
How does he find that circle? How does he not get to the breaking point where he's losing his woman, where he's losing his life, he's
Yeah.
losing his kids, it's falling apart
Yeah.
before he realizes, which he may realize it long before that, but how do we get ahead of that? And I think that's where understanding as men the confliction in our lives, hey, if you got to recognize it. If you see confliction, you are conflicted about your being, your life, how things are going, it's okay to reach out. Now, how you do that and who you get that information from, of course, is going to be subjective, but it's okay to ask. But building that out within the American society, I think would be healthy for men. we got to be able to have that same circle that women do. We've got to be able to go to our tool bag, you know, our backpack, and say, hey, I need to be able to do X. I need to be able to do Y. How do I deal with this?
Yeah, what do I have in my bag of tricks that's going to help me accomplish
Who
that?
else has dealt with this?
Yeah.
You know, who else has dealt with these life events, you know, that maybe I haven't? How do I deal with that? How do I deal with a sick child? How do I deal with this? How do I deal with that? How do I process those emotions? How do I deal with those emotions in a healthy way without destroying my relationships in the process and turning to booze, drugs, or any other thing? How do we get there? How do I elevate myself before it's too late? You know, how do we elevate men so that we can be, in the end, I think is the end point of this, to be better humans? How do how do we pull ourselves up? We recognize, hey, some of the things that we've been told over time, likely it's just a false narrative that's been kind of sold. This golden era of time and these things that have been perpetuated.
Oh, it's just a cop-out, man.
It's really a cop-out.
Yeah.
You know,
Rub dirt on it, get back in
yeah,
the game, and you're
yeah,
fine.
No, it's, okay, yeah. So how do we elevate ourselves? You know, when we identify confliction within ourselves, how do we do that? And I think
What's stopping you from
point.
asking women? Like in the 1970s, when this huge workforce boom came out and women were working and we were seeking mentors and we were doing these things, we were working 16 hours a day and there were single moms and everything changed for women. What did we seek? We sought men mentors because we thought our power was in masculine energy.
Yeah.
So when we needed to know how to work to support our families, what did we do? We asked men.
Yeah. And I think
Who had traditionally done it for years previous.
So if you're looking to find sanctuary internally, why wouldn't you ask women?
Men don't know how to ask women questions. Men are afraid of women. Most men.
100%. We're afraid to ask those questions.
Especially to ask them things like that.
Okay.
They are afraid.
100%.
From
I
the
tell
out,
Carol- I
from
tell
the
Carol all
outside,
time, you know, yeah.
and I don't know if anybody can hear me, but from the outside, I've noticed throughout my life that strong men seek strong women.
True story.
Why? If the masculinity
So
is
she's
so
saying
high.
that strong men seek strong women, and why is that? If their masculinity is so
High, and
High.
they're built to support and to hunt and to gather and to do all of the man things, why do you seek out women that are strong enough to not only meet your level but exceed your level?
I'll take this one, Kelly.
I'm sure that you will.
I think it's because there's ingrained in them the paradigm of, 100 years ago, which is the man goes and provides and the woman stays at home, and they're still seeking that woman that can hold down the fortress while they're gone. And because we've insubstantiated women
I concur.
as primary emotional caregivers, and we don't think that's important anymore. Men don't understand that the emotional depth of a woman is so important to what they're going to bring to the table as a divine masculine. They inside know that they need a strong woman, and they do not know what they need her for. And so they seek her out, they find her, and they don't know what to do with her. And there's so much tumultuousness that ensues because she knows what she wants. She knows where she wants the relationship to go. She knows how she wants it to look. And she drives that for a very long time.
Yeah.
And
she's elevated now. He's got to be able to elevate himself.
yes.
Step up the game.
And not in the same point feel emasculated, or because that's where it all comes. You get this
Boom.
with a strong woman, then you get men who feel emasculated, then all these toxic things start coming out, and they stop communicating.
Yeah,
they
stop talking about it.
they stop talking about it, and they start
Emasculation comes down to
bottling all that
confliction,
stuff.
though, again,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So when
Yeah,
we're looking at
100%.
emasculation, let's use the word confliction because that's what we're talking about, which is the internal system that says, she's not relying on me to do man things, the things that I know that I'm strong at, the things that I know that I'm good at. And if she's not relying on me, then I must be unreliable. And not ask the question, why isn't she relying on me to do this?
Yeah.
What can I do to change it? And again, it just comes down to asking better questions. But I think Kelly made the great point, because it doesn't stop that strong men seek strong women. But we are seeing a lot of strong women seeking slightly less strong men, because the paradigm of it is that I can be in competition with my partner, or I can be in cohesion with my partner.
Or control.
Or control. I mean, control is good, right? Like everybody seeks control in certain areas, and I think that that's an important meeting that partners should have. Like, there's a paradigm of control in a relationship.
Yeah.
Whether it's down to who's driving, or who's navigating groceries, or who's picking up kids, whatever it is, there is constantly control being sought. And when two people who are strong can get together and say, we love control, we both want to control, let's see what empowers us best in that control space, then you're both growing. But when you're taking control from each other and it's a constant fight,
Yeah, it's not symbiotic.
it's disempowering.
It's not. Yeah, it's not. Hey, we're doing this together. It's I'm either, whether man or woman, I'm taking that power to lessen your stature, whether that's man or woman. It doesn't matter.
Correct. The confliction becomes a conflict.
Then, yeah, you're absolutely instituting confliction in this case, as we're focused.
So you have to be able to look at a fight and ask questions and say, if we are in conflict right now, what is it in me that feels like I'm being attacked? What is it in you that feels like you're attacking, or feels like you're being attacked?
Yeah.
And what can we work out through there?
Yeah,
But again, coming back and sitting with those emotions as a man right now is incredibly difficult, and it's going to take a lot of work, because women can name it easily. And I think, with men, because you have so much to learn about what it means to name emotion.
So much.
Are we all fucked up, dude? Are we? Are we?
Are we?
Who's not?
Are we? Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
Aren't we all?
We're all kind of.
We're all kind of a little fucked up, though.
I think
Yeah.
we're all flawed beings, 100%. So that's
Yes.
one thing that we all have to acknowledge.
That is literally the most egotistical masculine thing to say, is that, oh, we're all broken, not just
Yeah,
we are broken.
we
But
are.
what we're talking about right now is being able to sit in an emotional space.
Yeah, no, I totally
And the
concur.
endurance of that. So are you telling me that right now you feel, as a man, you're more capable or equally capable
no.
of sitting in an
No.
emotional space and naming those things?
No, I'm
As a strong woman.
no, because I'm being honest with myself. Absolutely not.
Are you saying that strong women aren't capable of doing that?
I'm saying strong women are capable of doing it. I'm saying strong men are capable of doing it, but nobody has all the answers for it. When somebody wants to vie, just like you said, for control, or both people are strong parties and they both want to vie for a little piece of control, why do we have to vie for control at all? Why can't we just communicate, work through it, rise together and vibe together and get it done? Why can't that happen? Why does either party have to vie for a little bit of control here, a little bit of control there? Yeah, that's been the process from the beginning of time.
Yeah.
But why does that have to be the process?
Well, I think that's what
Right.
we're working towards.
Because what you're saying is that control is inherently wrong, which it's not.
Didn't say that at all. But why does the word control have to be interjected into the conversation at all?
Oh, okay, I like that. What word could we use instead?
So what do we? So when you're looking at
Responsibility.
Perhaps responsibility.
roles, responsibilities,
responsibilities. Yeah.
Which, again,
Yeah.
Roles change more than
roles
responsibilities.
change.
I think.
Roles change, responsibilities change, but
Yeah.
I think it all gets back down to is being able to communicate, which again is another episode coming up shortly.
Right on.
But is being able to rise together as
Right.
beings, understanding we are all flawed.
Yeah.
We are humans. None of us are perfect. And trying to hold ourselves to some
Can
imperfect
I switch
thing,
this
but-
conversation for a second? Okay, because what you're saying right now is, okay, we're coming into an emotional space, and how we're going to look at it is that everybody's flawed and nobody really has any ground to gain. But let's just say we're in, I don't know, Louisville, and we're bouncing around super drunk, and somebody needs to be responsible for bad guys, right? Are we going to take time right then to go over who is more capable of dealing with bad guys?
Oh.
No, we're not.
Well, no, but and what I'm saying here is that I think as humans,
Ooh, I'm glad you cut
We
it, 'cause I
don't-
was going to go down that road.
we have to accept that we are flawed. That like we all have our own baggage, we all have our own things that
Oh my
happen
God,
to us
you're
in our
mansplaining
lives.
emotional capability,
I'm
and it's
totally
not
mansplaining.
that.
So, but so as people are trying to process,
Is this
and
wrong?
say,
Am I Kelly? Can
you
you
know,
weigh in here?
let's say that
I need a
we
woman to weigh
are
in because these two are ridiculous. Kelly,
flawed beings that we're acknowledging the fact that we're broken. We're trying to fix the problem.
you're acknowledging
which
the
should
fact that
be-
you're broken, but you're sitting here saying that nobody knows the answer.
No, we do.
No, I didn't
That's
say
not,
that
that's
nobody
not
knows
what
the
I'm
answer.
You're
saying.
saying we're all flawed beings, and
I'm
that
saying we do know the answers. The answers are here. We need to teach men need to understand what questions to ask.
Yeah.
How do they get to that?
Yeah.
How do we improve upon that so that as flawed beings we can move forward. It's not about that
Yes.
there are no answers. There are answers, but we have to be able to, one, as men, understand what we have an issue. We are conflicted.
Mm-hmm.
We have a problem. I need to be able to understand that. What is the problem? Can I even articulate that as a man? Which, as we've discussed, most likely they don't emotionally may not be able to even process what they're feeling.
I'm
So
pretty
they're
smart
going to
and I
have to
can't
go
do it.
say, "Hey doc, I feel like this," or "Hey so and
we've
so,
had
I
this
feel
whole
like this."
conversation, and you're still coming back to I have to ask myself.
Well, I think that's the first step in it is acknowledging.
Is
the
it?
problem.
Yeah.
Are you guys doing super good at answering your own questions?
No,
No,
but
I
Okay,
think
you
so-
you have to acknowledge that you have a
problem,
and then
and
go
then
go
seek
seek
the outside
answers. Now, whether
answers.
that's getting answers from
your
a
significant
girl
other.
or-
But you
or
just
your-
said
men.
we all have problems. So shouldn't
Yeah.
all of us be seeking that?
Well,
But I think
as,
women do seek that. As we have our inner
your
circles that
circle.
we've built, that we do seek
Yeah, I was trying to be nice,
those
Kelly.
answers.
Yeah.
we
Yeah,
do
yeah, yeah.
seek
Yeah,
those
So I was trying to
answers.
point that out without making them look
yeah,
completely
you guys
ridiculous.
have the circle. and I think
However,
that's what we're trying to
men-
get
We
to.
built
Yeah,
a
we built it.
circle.
Yeah.
We
We
don't
did.
have it.
And-
We
and
gained it.
men
We
need to
went
build that.
and painstakingly built it.
We have to do the same thing.
100%.
We have to do that same thing. There's work that needs to be done.
But for us, there's one or two trusted individuals that you can
Yeah.
text and say, "JD, this is happening.
Yeah. How
What do I do?
How do I work
How should I
through
deal with this?
How should I?
How should I work through this?
And
How do you think in what you've gone
So
through
you're
should I
making it
respond?"
sound like it's easier for women to build that circle,
No,
and it's
no,
just
no,
as hard.
no,
like
no,
we
no.
have gone through this effort
Because
to
you
say,
guys will do the work. We won't do the work.
Yeah.
We have that one trusted individual or two trusted individuals. Whereas you guys do that emotional work. You talk. You have your circles. You speak.
You vetted your
You've
circle.
vetted
just
your
as much
circles.
as we, but we have to be able to get there.
Yeah.
And acknowledging the problem is the first step. Then going out and getting those answers, vetting our circle, growing that circle. We have to normalize that it's okay to reach out.
Yeah.
However that
To your
is,
buddy.
in whatever man form that may
Yeah.
turn into.
JD,
But it's okay.
I'm having this issue.
Yeah.
Bro, I got nothing for you. Let me ask
Yeah,
Cal.
hang on. Yeah. Let me
Let me consult the oracle real quick.
Yeah. Let me ask.
And see
them.
what advice she's got.
I want to
Yeah.
know why you want to immediately go to seeking the help of other people who can't help you when
Because
you-
that's all we have.
That's what it's
you
not.
don't.
It's not all we
I
have.
just like I just
but
said
it's what
in the
we know
1970s.
how to
What
do.
did we do when we needed to go work? When we needed to work hard and bust into business and do whatever the fuck it took to get the promotion, we
But
sought the
that's
help
a
of
lot
men.
different than in talking discussions with the men,
Yeah.
especially about emotions.
Conflicted
It's very,
men.
yeah, getting a job, that's one thing, but
Yeah.
being able to articulate your emotions to another
Going
guy
from being
is
a
very-
woman
very difficult
who
for
holds
guys.
down your house, who does nothing but handle your children, handle your households, love your family, to someone who works 16 hours outside of the house to bring in income to support your family, that's easier than being able to talk about your feelings for a man. So what you literally just said is that it was harder for us to elevate ourselves than it's going to be for you.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's the depth of the problem.
Yeah,
Exactly.
being conflicted.
That is conflicted. That's how
Don't have the tools to get that done.
You just exactly summed up the problem.
Yeah.
How big the problem is.
Yeah.
Is that's how
I think
how
then
much
the
work
problem
it's
is
going
that
to
big
take.
because you don't want it enough. Okay.
And that may be.
I mean, when you have to do something, you have to do something. There's no other choice.
Yeah. And men have, if we want to improve
We
our
have
fighting
to do
position,
something.
we're going to have to do this.
Yeah.
Which
Do those
in
things.
our minds is that complicated. Yes. I'm not saying that none of that is
I'm not
easy
saying
or
it's
I'm
not complicated.
undermining
I'm just
you
saying
know,
that
the
what's-
woman effort
like it is
everything they've
going
done for
back to the
society
beginning of this
and all
conversation
of that, you know.
of do men even like women, because you've been taught from the beginning that we're weak.
Whoa.
I like
Okay,
women.
vagina and pretty. Okay,
No.
but outside of that, we've just gone through an
No.
entire how long have we been doing this?
No.
An hour and a half? And you guys still won't come to the conclusion that you can very simply just ask a woman to do this and then go to your men and help them, but you refuse to do that. Every single notion that you've come to is still only relying on men.
No. I
No,
don't think so.
not at all.
No,
That's
I'm
not
saying-
it.
Kelly,
Yeah,
That's
I'm
not what we're
saying
saying
that.
at all.
Because
Help
that
me.
person that you may go to may very well be a
it
woman
may
friend.
be.
My first,
It just depends. It just depends on the man and who they have access to.
correct.
You know, maybe you don't have
And it's-
have somebody like that.
Yeah.
Other than a doctor or somebody that's
Correct.
very
I
not
hope
in your
somebody
your
is
trust
listening
circle.
to this that hears what this bullshit
Yeah,
is.
this is the confliction right here.
It is.
That,
It's the confliction. Do we go and show that weakness to our partner and ask that? As
You
men,
think it's weakness.
as men,
You think it's weakness.
right? As
From the
men,
outside, is it really weakness?
no,
Or is
no,
it
as
strength?
men,
Not.
and that's why we're having this discussion.
Yeah.
But as men, the majority of men feel that as a weakness.
Men among men think
Because-
it's weakness.
because
a
that's
man
what-
coming to his woman and saying, "I want to sit and solve this, whatever it takes,"
Or-
is strength.
Or
Yes.
seeking the advice of his friends prior to bringing that problem
You
to
can't
his
seek
women.
the advice. I could not right now.
You wouldn't
have
go-
the circle. Have the circle of women that I have. If we hadn't gone through
Yeah.
the past 100 years of elevating ourselves as women,
Yes, you've had 100 years. You've built this. You've built this thing. It's a very. You've built it.
yeah.
You've-
So if you
you've
want to
vetted
build
it.
a corporation, are you going to talk to Elon Musk? Or are you going to talk to Joe Blow down the fucking road? You're going to talk to the person who's been doing it for 100 years.
But the first person we're going to talk to is our buddy.
Yeah, and be like, "What do you think this is a solid idea?"
Yeah, absolutely.
That's just the way we think. That's how our brains work.
Yeah, that's how.
Do
men
you
are
think
wired.
this is a solid idea?
What do you think about this idea?
How should I phrase this question to my lady?
How should I go this way?
Yeah.
How should I do these things? Yes, 100%.
But how often do you do that?
Not
None.
enough.
Not enough.
Not enough. Which is the.
That's
it
right
So
there
what you're
in a
saying is
nutshell.
you are 100% committed to seeking help from somebody who can't help you instead of just asking somebody who can help you.
I'm saying men don't know how to ask for help. They don't know.
And
how
I'm
to
saying it's
ask
hard
for
for a man to go to the woman that he loves, that he feels relies on him for these certain things, and project that weakness
His
and
perceived
say
weakness.
his perceived weakness
Yeah.
and say, "I'm having issue with this.
help me.
Help me with this."
Yeah.
It is hard for a man to do that.
100%.
So in order for him to gain some validation for what he is about to do, he goes to probably one or two tested, vetted dudes and says, "Bro,"
His circle.
and says, "I'm having this issue with my woman.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about saying this to her. Do you feel that I am wording it correctly, or am I way off base here?"
Yeah. Or he may not even know how to articulate.
And he may not,
He could
yeah.
be saying,
Yeah.
X is happening. I don't know what's going on.
What the fuck?
So then
Exactly.
again,
So,
what you're
but-
doing is seeking sources outside of the relationship that are unqualified to navigate your relationship.
But
So
that's all they have.
That's all
that's
they-
not. There's counselors, there's
But
psychologists,
but
there's
before you
tons
bring-
of qualified
Before
people.
you bring in somebody that's not in your circle, before a man will do that, most likely, and that's what we're trying to change
Yeah.
is before a man will do that, 9 times out of 10, he's going to go to
His
that
buddies.
one trusted
Or his buddy.
and he's going to throw the flag out and see and try to get some type of input. Now, if that input does not work and that confliction remains within him and that problem remains, that's what we're here saying is it's okay to go seek help.
Professional advice,
Help. If you
or
can't
go
get
directly to
it, if you can't get it from your friends,
Yeah.
if you are afraid to ask your woman, if you're afraid to ask your partner,
right.
Then you shouldn't
you-
be with that partner. Period.
but that depends because
No, it
But see,
doesn't.
that outlook right there will throw a lot of men off base.
Yeah.
And they will say, you know what? That woman said, that woman that I love, that woman that I hold on high, that woman that I have on the pedestal says
that's not-
that I,
okay,
let me
so
finish
what-
my
no.
statement, please.
Okay.
Says to me that if I can't come to her with a problem, that I have no business being with her. So that man who's already conflicted in that whatever the problem may be, however small it is, however big it is,
Which
says,
is-
if I can't come to her, she says to me, if you can't bring that problem directly to me, then you've got no business being with me.
Okay, so
yeah,
And he's got her
and
up
it
here.
depends on.
Depends on nothing.
Oh, no,
He's
no.
got her up here.
pack
He's
your
got
bags.
exactly. He's got her up here.
Right. That's the man point of view. That's the confliction within the men that we're talking
Okay,
about.
then I'm going
right
to
now.
take it a step further and say he has no business being in a relationship at all. Okay?
And
Because
again, you're
you-
smashing that man down.
It's not smashing.
It is.
It is
For
what
you
it
to
is.
come at that man and say to him that he's got no business in a relationship whatsoever. You are crushing that man
Now,
to
and
say
this
he's
is-
got no
You
business
have a
in a
man
relationship.
who can't talk about his feelings, who can't go to his partner, who can't talk about anything that's going on internally, and will not seek professional help. Absolutely,
Which
he
is-
has
which
no
is-
business.
Which is the
being in a
conflict right
relationship.
now.
Which is exactly
Which is the conflict.
the conflict.
So then
Is
maybe the
is confliction
65%
within men.
of males who aren't dating and who are finding themselves lonely need to seek professional help and stop destroying
100%.
women in their war with themselves.
Yes,
100%.
100%.
Okay? So I stand by what I said.
We're agreeing.
Because
Yeah,
we
100%.
are partners now.
Yeah.
We are
Yeah.
not the woman up here. We don't need to be on a pedestal. You don't need to protect us because I carry a gun and a knife and I'm just as good in a
Yeah.
fight as you are. So if you want to come and have this
I taught you how to use them both. Okay? So I know the fact. I know what you carry.
That's true.
All right? So what I'm saying is,
That is the crux of
that's the
this.
fucking crux of the
That is the
situation.
thing. We're saying, men,
Yeah.
if you are if you are single right now, if you are, and you know, yes, this applies in a relationship, whether it's man, woman, whatever. But that's the exact point of what you're saying is, if you are conflicted, don't bring that garbage into a relationship.
100%.
Yes, that's what this is all about. If you are conflicted right now, as a man, woman, whatever, and you are not in a relationship, figure it out. Go get help. Become a better,
Human
elevated
being.
human being. Look internally.
Yes.
Do a little self-reflection. Find the problem. Address the problem. Elevate yourself, and then start looking for the good relationship, the good woman. You know, those type of things. Because if you don't, it's going to cause conflict in the relationship,
100%, bro.
which I think is a good stopping point for
Oh,
this
Mazel
conversation.
tov. I'm for it.
Thanks,
And
Steve.
I think that end becomes the overall end point of this episode is before you get to conflict, before you break, before it becomes broken, before you become broken, before you become conflicted.
Fix yourself.
Fix yourself.
Outstanding.
Before we get there, before we drag people into our abyss, into the darkness, which can be good. In darkness we find light. In light
Not
we find
fix
darkness.
yourself. Ask for help.
Ask for help.
Ask for help.
There are resources. There is so much information.
There
out
are
there
so
for
many
everybody.
people willing to
A
help.
ton.
There's family.
For sure.
There's friends. There's
Us.
so much for you. There's us. There's the Third Degree with JD,
That's it.
bringing real conversations to you about life, being conflicted, avoid becoming conflicted. Be better for your partner. Be better for yourself. Become a better human.
Raise better humans.
Raise better humans. And overall, improve the human condition that we see today. And I think with that, we'll make the world a better place.
I concur, my friend.
Thank you again,
See you next
Mr.
time.
Joe, coming to hang out with us, the non-toxic masculinist.
I think what he
Mrs.
called you.
Christine Martin, the brunette assassin, bringing some very wonderful discussions again. I look forward to the next episode, which is minimized, which is
Ooh.
the inverse
He's
of
talking
this
about women.
conversation,
Bring it.
is the minimization of women over time and space, and how do we function in a society with strong women? How do we elevate ourselves as men,
Kelly gonna be
To
over
ride.
here next time.
that lightning with the women? So thank you
Yikes.
again for joining us today on Third Degree with JD, and we'll see you next time. Peace out.
Later.